1-800 Packouts. It was part of a $30 billion industry.
This is a B2B business. We're not necessarily selling to the policyholder. Last year, FDD, 11 million gross revenue was the largest owner.
Before you explore franchise options, take a few minutes to understand how you are wired. The assessment link is below. Welcome to Franchise Focus. Today, we're diving into a business most people don't think about until they need it. Urgent, emotional, and high stakes. We're talking about contents restoration, the process of packing out, cleaning, and restoring personal belongings after events like fires, floods, and other disasters. I'm joined by Gavri Grossman and Brian Robinson from 1-800 Packouts, part of 5-Star Franchising. We're going to break down how this model works, where the real opportunity is, and what it actually takes to build and scale in this space. So welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing well, doing very well. Thanks for
Pretty
having us,
good.
Laura.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. If you guys can, and we'll start with Brian, if you could just give a little background about yourself and how your background in franchising and how you joined 5-Star with 1-800
Yeah,
Packouts.
absolutely. I've been with Packouts now for 7 months. I came from another brand where I helped expand to over 400 locations, and I started to do my due diligence on 1-800 Packouts. It was part of a $30 billion industry, plenty of white space, and little to no competition. And I was excited to be able to leave people better than how I found them. I have about 7 years of experience in the development side, and just excited to see what me and my partner in crime, Gavri, can do going forward from 2026 and beyond.
Yeah. My name's Gavri. Partner in crime, Brian over here. I've been with 5-Star approximately, I think, like 1 week longer than Brian has. So we're both about 7 months into this business. My due diligence as well with both 5-Star and with 1-800 Packouts. I love the uniqueness of the business model, the niche, how it helps people, which we'll talk about the model here as we go. Personally, I've been in the industry several years. My last company took the brand over that 100 location mark, which was pretty exciting. Found Packouts, found 5-Star, met the team, really got along with them, and haven't looked back.
Fantastic. So for someone hearing contents restoration, we'll start with Brian. What does that actually mean in real life to
My
what you guys?
aha moment was the items that turn a house into a home. Those items that turn a building into a business during the most stressful time in their life, from a fire to a flooding thing in between. We come on board and we save those items so they can last forever. I think Gavri has a better simplicity of it, but that's my aha moment.
All right, Gavri, we'll go to you too.
Yeah. So put simply, we come in, after a disaster, we'll pack everything up. We'll move it to our warehouse. We'll do some cleaning, some restoration. Then we'll store it for as long as it takes that structure, that building, that home to be completed. And then we'll move it back in. So the storage aspect, there's a bit of recurring revenue aspect to the model there because we're billing the insurance companies each and every month for that, however long it takes that home to be completed. And you can think of it like a restoration adjacent, right? So traditional restoration companies out there, the Serve Pros, the Pure Cleans, what have you, they typically deal with the structure. They don't have the infrastructure to be able to deal with all the contents, the items in that home or in that business. And that's where Packouts comes in to partner with those traditional restoration companies. We take care of the contents, they take care of the building.
And how often are you able to truly save a fair amount of the contents, or do you have to end up tossing a lot of it as well?
Yeah, for the most part. When we look at building a business model, building a pro forma, we look at typically single home, single business types of disasters, right? So that's the burst pipe in the basement. That's a kitchen fire where, it's a kitchen fire. That means smoke damage on everything in the home. That's a tree falling on the roof in a windstorm. And so that's kind of the bread and the butter of the business. And yeah, typically in those types of instances, you can save almost all, if not all, of the items in the home or the business.
Just gonna say, I've had every single one of those events happen to me and need somebody to come in and do it.
Oh, no way. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all been fine. It's been fine. The fire was very small, but a small kitchen fire. And I could
Right.
not believe how much they had to do everything. They had a Christmas tree up and they had to wipe down every bulb. And oh, wow.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All the clothing in
Sorry.
the closets, the
Yep.
sheets in the beds, like everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So what's the biggest misconception that people think when they hear, like, I'm talking to somebody, I've got a great B2B business for you. That's what I'm typically thinking of, someone that's good in that B2B market. But when you first start talking to somebody, where are they initially going wrong in their thinking, and how is it the best way for them to start thinking about this model?
We work with TPAs. I think some people have a misconception that we're in competition with them. We just partnered up with ServPro not too long ago. They take care of the mitigation. We take care of the items inside that house. So I think lots of times when they hear it, they put us in the same category as them. But Gavri said it correct. We're adjacent to them. We work with them. They take care of that building from the house to the home, and we're the ones that take care of those items inside of that. Sometimes they don't have the infrastructure to take care of it, and it's a part of the insurance. What we would say, Gary, about 96, 97% of it is paid by insurance. And we use a system called Exactimate, which the insurance companies already use. So we make it easier for them. So the misconception is they always think we're in competition when in actuality, we're their peanut butter to their jelly, their Jack to their Jill, their Jordan to their Pippin.
Yeah, we're Jordan. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There.
So someone starting off in this business, what are they typically doing? What's the main role of the owner, and how do they grow? And I know you guys help a lot with some of your, your infrastructure. We can talk through that too, and national accounts and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So to start, like you mentioned earlier, Laura, this is a B2B business. We're not necessarily selling to the policyholder, or that's our customer, but they're not the payer.
Right.
But it's a referral-based B2B sales model. So we partner with local restoration companies, with third-party adjusters, contractors, plumbers, all those types of people in the market. And so that's what, to really grow and to scale quickly, we always strongly recommend somebody hire a salesperson first off. Have them start a month and a half before they actually launch, because the franchise owner is going to be, building the business, working on the business, right? They don't have time to hit the pavement 40 hours a week to go out and sell and make these relationships, right? And which frees them up to come in and, as the owner, once the deal is close to being signed or the referral partnership's close to being made. But other than that, that's the biggest recommendation we can give for quick scaling and quick growth, is getting that good salesperson on early.
Gotcha. So they are literally out there, which I think would be appealing to a lot of people that are coming out maybe at an executive level that don't necessarily want to go hit that pavement, but want to be involved, towards the end. So
Yeah.
that's a great model. What's that process like in terms of them trying to build those referral relationships I mean, the need is known, right? And I would imagine the name is known. So how does that work when the salesperson's out there?
So typically you hear from franchisees, typically it's about 3 visits, right? First visit, you go and meet the receptionist, the front office staff. Second visit, maybe you'll get a meeting. Third visit, that's when you kind of formalize that relationship. And it's things like bringing cookies or flowers or something like that. And then third visit, when that relationship really does start.
Very good. So boots on the ground really does help.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. What size space are you typically needing to lease out in terms of holding that contents?
So it's between 5,000 and 2,000 square feet. We always say work smarter, not harder. You can get yourself a 5,000 square foot warehouse and make sure the ceiling height is 2 or 3 times higher, so you can double, triple stack. But we do help you with the general contractor. Once we've mapped out your territory up to 1 million in population, we sort of centralize that warehouse in an industrial area. We want that work-life balance to be as best as possible. But again, you can go from 5,000 to 20,000. If it's a little larger warehouse, and you only have 10,000, it's okay. You can build into that. Sometimes you can rent out that other half until you need that space. So we have options there between 5,000 and 20,000 square feet.
Fantastic. What do you see franchisees struggle with at the beginning typically?
I think one of the biggest things that people have to understand is, so number one is that we work with insurance companies who get paid by insurance companies. I think, so what that means is that there's a lot of record keeping, making sure that, something we took from Sally's house doesn't go back to John's house instead, right? So there's a lot of record keeping. So that's got to be meticulous. So that takes up more time, I think, than people realize. And then even though we're paid by insurance, we're not, going to some homeowner and say, hey, we can help you, but it's going to cost you out of pocket. It's still working with the insurance companies, as everybody always knows. Filing that claim, collecting on that claim isn't always as straightforward as just submitting an invoice, right? So there's a bit of work that goes into that as well.
Okay, great. And how do you guys as the back engine help them with that, as well as marketing? What's that support look like?
The beautiful thing is you have 5-star franchising. We have now 7 brands. We added one last quarter, and we have national accounts. We have someone that specializes in that one. So we help them from the very beginning, from a playbook to the infrastructure to the ecosystem. So we want to make sure it's a proven model, and we get feedback from our franchisees that are currently in the business, sort of onboarding, to some that have been in business 2 or 3 years, to our mature franchisees. And so we always have an evolving playbook that can assist the individuals that are coming on board from the ones that from the past.
Yeah, just to build on that. So on the marketing side of things, there's an internal 1-800-Packouts marketing team that helps every franchisee, but they also have the might and the support of the 5-star marketing team as well. So there's a lot of options there. They'll be paired with a franchise business coach, meet with the operations team. I always joke the coaches are just flying around the country 52 weeks out of the year going to help out franchisees. Maybe it's a large commercial job. They've never done something like that before. Maybe they've never done a fire job before. So the coach will come out and help them. And then lastly, in terms of that claims and that record keeping, so we do have a department, basically a claims department. So Sally heads that up, and she's with them every step of the way, helping make sure that we file it in the right way, helping make sure that we can collect in an efficient way, and any barriers that arise throughout that process.
That's huge, huge. The folks that really get into the model and are start excelling, and they have some of those fun wins. And I get there's the timing of cash collection, but at the end when you build this big system, it's going to really pay off. What are some early wins for some of your franchisees that the light bulb goes off and they see that if they just keep on continuing to build that, they'll build a pretty big system.
Talk about Alex if you want to, Gavri.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll talk about Alex, and you can, you've got another story as well. So,
Yeah.
Our rookie of the year franchisee last year came from pharmaceutical sales and business development. So it's really cool for 1-800-Packouts because that's also a B2B sales model. I mean, the doctor is the customer, but the insurance is paying, right? And so it's sort of a similar way to go about structuring the business. And he did a lot of business in his first 7 months. Story he told us the other day is that he got this incredibly large commercial job. He ended up hiring 70 temp workers to complete that job. And so that's we have something called 5-star buying group. So we have relationships with national temp agencies that help get those workers. And so he did that, completed the job, and that represented probably quarter to a third of his P&L for his first year.
To even know you need that many people is amazing. So obviously, the systems you have to cost that out or to plan that out is fascinating to me. Holy cow.
Yeah. And Brian, talk about Jolly.
Yeah, we have a couple out of New Jersey. They signed towards the end of December into January, and they came out on fire. They were able to get a warehouse. They had a job as soon as the warehouse was established, but also more importantly, they leaned on other franchisees in that area in the community. And that's what we are. We are a family. And they said the famous word to us, we want it all. We want New Jersey all. So they just sent me a picture of a successful launch. We're excited for them, but they're out of New Jersey. And his background was a firefighter, and she was an ex-executive for Victoria's Secret. They had no background when it came to restoration, but they were hungry. I think in today's world, a lot of people want instant gratification, microwavable results. But they were willing to put in the effort from the very beginning, follow the playbook, and success followed them. So that's for anyone. If you're willing to put in the effort, we have the tools and the resources surrounding you so that you can be successful.
Yeah, I think cool thing about their launch stories, when they sent us the photos, our Philadelphia franchisee went over to help them launch and was in the photos and celebrate with them and is kind of guiding them throughout the process, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And I'm sure he's happy to have a strong partner nearby, right?
Yep, absolutely.
When we talked a bit about the owner role at the beginning, and you hire the salesperson. How does that evolve, and when are they hiring their next person, and how does that expand over time?
So first hires the salesperson, then it's going to be your operating crew, your technicians, right? So typically 4 to 6 to start out. And we can always, like I mentioned before, we can always supplement with contract labor. We do like to have those 4 to 6 technicians be W-2 so we can train them, get them, really invest in them. And then if we do have a large job, that they can kind of lead each of their own teams should we need to bring on some contract labor. So that's really what it is. So it's to start is the salesperson, then the technicians. And then as you grow, get things like an office manager, maybe a general manager, things like that.
From someone coming from corporate, the biggest adjustment that you see them going through and or the biggest transformation that you see, where those that really get it, that they understand. And I know you've given the history of those two franchisees, but any other just, important things that they need to consider as they're making that transition?
Putting in the effort. I think a logistics background works out very well. I know sometimes I like to call them corporate refugees. They still have that string attached. Just believe in yourself. Me and Gavri are going to get them to about 80, 85%, but you have to bet on the system, the playbook, but more importantly, yourself. someone who wants to solve problems, someone who wants to be in the community. Again, during the most stressful times in their life, what we found out is people trust what they know. So be in that community, shaking hands, smiling, kissing babies, talking to those local tradesmen, those carpenters, those plumbers, because again, when that stress comes up, they want to know who they can lean on. And with that being said, if you're willing to do that and go above and beyond, again, leave people better than how you found them, then you can be successful in this one. But that's what we've seen so far: a logistics background, someone who wants to solve problems, someone who wants to build those relationships with those adjusters, those contractors, and really embed themselves in the community.
Can you talk a little bit about the national accounts that 1-800 Packouts brings to the table?
Yeah, so we've got national accounts with some of the largest restoration companies in the country. Again, they typically do the traditional side of things. We
Hmm.
do the content side. We also have partnerships with the five largest, what's called third-party administrators (TPAs)
Right.
in the
Right.
country. Think of them effectively as outsourced adjusters, right? So I call my insurance company. They'll call a TPA to do the adjuster function for me.
Right.
So that's who I would actually be dealing with. So we've got partnerships with the five largest. One of the things that Packouts brings to the table is that if you're starting your own business, they won't partner with you. They won't give you anything unless you've been in business for at least 3 years. So by
Yep.
being with Packouts, you get those relationships right away.
I mean, that's huge. That's really huge. This would be an intimidating business to do, I think, on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a unique as well. In terms of the specialized restoration, I guess, is there other things that you have to farm out to other locations or different type of vendors, whether it's paintings or whatnot? Or
So for most part, we do have state-of-the-art equipment in our warehouses, but if there's a situation where we need to go to a third party, say there's a piano, we're able to clean it. Again, we're going to train those individuals that Gavri spoke about earlier at our warehouse, and then we also have refresher courses. But say we clean the piano, but we have to retune it. We subcontract that out to make sure it's retuned. So for the most part, we're always adding pieces, machinery to make it easier for us to clean from a hard surface to a soft surface. But there are situations where we do need to add a third party to make sure they come in and do the rest.
and this traditionally isn't an emergency service, unlike like restoration. That is 24/7 to some degree. I mean, you can have different people
Yeah.
answering the phones, but what is like the typical model? Is that why some people choose this or
Yeah, I mean, Laura, you're absolutely right. It's the traditional restoration is that, I think of like emergency responders, the first on the scene type of thing. They got to
Mhm.
shut off the water, bring in the air movers, do the mitigation, move things out of harm's way. So they might be on site at 2 a.m. or whatever happens. But then they will give us a call once that work is done. So it's more, even for the technicians, for the people answering the phones, the owners, it's much more closely related to like a 9 to 5 type job. There's certainly going to be calls that come in on weekends or maybe after hours, but it is much more closely related to that traditional workday, whereas restoration in general is that 20.
is there an average amount of time that you're typically storing, or can it vary all over the place?
It can actually
Yeah.
vary. That's the beautiful thing about it. That's where the residual income comes in. It can
Yeah.
be from 3 months, 18 months. I know Gary has a personal story from Texas that he can definitely lean on and give you an idea of the longevity of sometimes those situations. Go ahead, Gabby.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Brian said, 6 9 months. I was living in Dallas in, I think it was 2021.
Yeah.
I think we all remember Snowmageddon, where the state of Texas just froze over.
Yes.
And pretty much everybody I know had a frozen pipe that
Yeah.
burst. I got
Yeah.
lucky, but friends, colleagues, everybody. In some cases, because of the demand in Dallas and the lack of labor, some cases people took them over 2 years to get back into their home. So that would be where Packouts is storing those contents for that duration of time, those 2 years.
What a service. I mean, I can't imagine how stressful, but what a service. When you've got candidates coming in through, what are some of the, key items that you really want them to understand and you understand about them to make sure they're a fit for 1-800 Packouts?
The questions I always ask is what made you look into entrepreneurship or franchising? Their background, what are their passions? That plays a huge part for a foundation and a great conversation. We go over the brand overview, but I really want to get to know them. For me and Gavri, it's a journey to make sure they feel comfortable, but also educated throughout the entire process. So that foundation of just getting to know them, they're married, are they single? Do they have kids? Do they want to make generational wealth? Do they want a more full-time, a semi-absentee? That foundation we build upon and we go from there.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that is just making sure that they understand this is not an absentee business. We do have, here and there semi-absentee owners, but for the most part, those are people that have been in the industry that are familiar with it, that know how to run that business. Just they have to understand that this is work. This is not something just to set it and forget it. And
Yeah.
this is going to be a lot of work, and make sure that they're up for it.
Yeah. What are some of the questions that they should be asking other owners when they're talking to them to really understand that.
Yeah, I always like, what was it like in your year one? What were some of the challenges that you faced? And knowing what you know now, would you have done it again?
Yeah, that's always a
And on
good
top
question.
of that is, if you could go back and do it over again, what's one thing you would have did differently? That's a good way to look at it
Yeah.
also. And, what do you lean on from the relationships, from the insurance to the TPAs? And so it's very beneficial for new candidates. Again, one thing we love about this is our franchisees are willing to get on a validation call and speak to those candidates, and they have a truly organic conversation. We don't coach them. They can talk about revenue, return, build out overhead. They could even talk about my dog if they want to. We do not coach them, and we love that opportunity for them to get a truly transparent conversation with our franchisees.
That's fantastic. Really key, and then people can feel that, and they know when it's authentic versus, certain people are being forced, and that is something I hear a lot, um, when I've got people going through the process, so it's really important that I know that, they're able to truly do that validation. In terms of, the number of franchisees that you have now, how many that's what I want to ask. How many are you at now, and what's your forecast of what you're hoping to be by the end of the year?
Yeah, I think this year's FDD was, I think, 35 franchisees, maybe, with almost 70 locations.
Okay.
We're looking to get over the 100 location mark this year would be great. But again, like Brian mentioned earlier, it's backed by 5 Star, and across all the brands at 5 Star, there's I think over 1,500 locations nationwide across all 7 brands and 1,000 franchisees. So Packouts represents a small number of that, but it is growing. 5 Star has really invested into 100 Packouts because they recognize the need for this business, that it's growing as well as the industry is growing as well. So that's cool to have the backing of and support of all the other franchisees as well.
For sure. Made me think about it. I didn't ask, when you talk about, so they're averaging 2 locations. I would imagine a location covers a pretty big area. So how big of an area is that typically, if they're, what's one location, what's 2 locations in terms of population and whatnot? And how
So the
far
beautiful
you smell?
Yeah, the beautiful thing is we use a mapping system. We use technology and we still marry it with the humanized experience, but we do a psychograph, a demograph, a heat map of the area. We look at the average income, the growth potential, the net migration of the competition, creepy data. But it can be that first territory can be up to about 1 million in population. And then
Okay.
again, a lot of our franchisees tend to come out the gate with about 2 territories. On top of that, with the quick start package, which we'll talk about later on. But Gavri, I think you'd agree about up to 1 million in population. Once you get up to what, about 1.6, we start looking at that second.
Yeah. So yeah, when we're designing them, we look at the metro area as well. Cool thing about the 100 Packouts model is the cost for additional territories don't rise commensurate with the operational structure. What I mean by that is you can run an entire metro area. Say take Dallas Fort Worth. There's millions and millions of people there, so it'd be a lot of territory. But you could have a single warehouse in Dallas to run the
Okay.
entire metro area. So getting a second territory does increase the ability to market and to operate to that number of people, but your costs don't rise with that. Still the same crew, same warehouse, same truck.
Okay, wonderful. Oh, good to know. All right. I had a misconception there. You talked about a fast start packet. What was that? I don't
It's
know
a
about that.
quick start package. Think of a Happy Meal on steroids. It's going to have everything you need to operate that business, from machinery, boxes, gloves, storage, forklifts. It's going to have everything you need in it. And as Gavri said earlier, the beautiful thing is if you do need to buy one for the first territory, but if you decide to come out the gate with 2 territories, you don't have to buy a second quick start package. You can share that within both territories, and that's going to save you some money. That's overall what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure you get open, you're efficient without killing your pockets at the same time.
Okay. And what's that average investment look like if you're getting 2
Yeah.
territories?
Well, excuse me, sorry about that. Excuse me. So for 2 territories, average investment is going to be about $320 to $575,000.
Okay.
Big factors there are regionality. Cost per square foot of a warehouse is going to be different in Alabama than it is in LA or New York.
Mhm.
And then the size of that warehouse as well. Are we doing 5,000? Are we doing 20,000 square feet? And then the other thing is the vehicle, right? So some franchisees will elect to rent a vehicle or rent a box truck, a moving truck until they have full-time work. Some want to buy it outright. Some want to lease it or finance it. And so those are kind of the big factors there in that range for that 2 territory model.
Got it. Got it. And goals for how large they can build this business? What's kind of the competition in the area, or how big can a content restoration get?
Yeah. I mean, our last year FDD, 11 million. gross revenue was the largest owner. And then we have several owners that either already had their own restoration company or added on a restoration company to kind of, I think of it like expanding deep rather than
Yep.
expanding wide, right?
Yeah.
Or with a dry cleaning company or a moving and storage company or restoration company.
Yeah.
So
You
you
mentioned.
can really add on to this model and really, squeeze out all the juice from your territory.
Very interesting. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's a great perspective. Anything else that you think it's important to bring up that people should think about when they're evaluating 1-800 Packouts?
Well, I tell people all the time, if you're going to invest in something that has some legs to stand on. Unfortunately, disasters are going to occur. And so again, there are going to be people in the most stressful times in their life. You want to help them out. You go from shaking their hands to hugging them. You're saving that family heirloom, that vase, that guitar, that piano, that portrait, any kind of electronics. And again, a lot of people were educating them throughout this entire process. Insurance companies know that we have to account for any kind of loss, total or not. So this business isn't going anywhere. It's a nice niche market that's only growing. And as Gavri said, the beautiful thing about 1-800 Packouts is they have emphasized your ecosystem, your operation team, your marketing team. They brought me and Gavri on as directors to make sure they're point of contact and make sure we educate them and get them down that yellow brick road and across that line.
Yeah, this seems like definitely a long-term play.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Our longest tenured franchisee is in year 10 right now,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. Started franchise in 2016. Wade's been here since the beginning. It's cool.
He's setting up
That
generational wealth now too, Gavri. I mean, his
That's
son
it.
is
Yeah.
now taking the reins, and he's really been incredible. We listened to him on a validation call not too long ago. One of the things we added in 2026 is a validation call library. So if they have a free afternoon or they have a free weekend, they're able to listen to different viewpoints from different franchisees that just started sort of onboarding to some of them that have been here 2 or 3 years. And like Gavri said, our mature franchisee for 10 years, you can also speak to them, not just the father, but now the son. So it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the folks that are successful, you mentioned you're hiring a salesperson, but they typically do have. I mean, you talked about the rookie of the year being in medical sales. Was he trying to do a lot of the sales himself, or like can
He
they
did.
sit back and do operations and then have someone else focus on that sales? How does that work together?
He did. I think typically, thinking of like the closer, right? Coming in for that last meeting to get the partnership going, but
Yeah.
having that
Okay.
salesperson for those first two meetings is really, really
Gotcha. Okay, so get that. All right. That hitting the pavement work, and then he's coming in and closing. That makes
yeah,
sense. Okay. To really show the value. That makes sense. Okay. So the owner has to be available for that as well.
available and coaching, right? So he's got all that experience in this, working with
Mm,
insurance and selling with based products. So coaching that salesperson, helping them out.
got it. Okay. Anything else, gentlemen, that you want to bring up?
No, we're excited. I think Gavri and,
Yeah.
we've only been in the brand for 7 months, but we've
Yep.
seen great strides, especially catching our stride in Q2. We're excited to see what we can do in 2026 and beyond. But more importantly, like Gavri has said, it's not 1-800 Packouts. You're just coming into the family. You're coming into a five-star family also. And we're going to make sure we leverage those 1,500 locations to get you premium pricing on everything you need to be successful. And so they're very, very, very accommodating to make sure from every point, from start with the coaching to the operations to the marketing, that you absolutely understand. But more importantly, you're educated the best way to absorb it and be successful.
That's fantastic. Anything else from you, Gavri?
Oh, I think we've covered it. I think Brian, great way to end it.
Yeah.
Laura, really, really appreciate you having us on.
I so
Absolutely.
enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed meeting you two, and no doubt you'll take great care of candidates. I think this is a fantastic model. I really do. I love these type of B2B for the right buyer, the right person that really can manage something big, because
Absolutely.
this is something big. But yeah, I think you guys really represent it well, and looking forward to working together.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Us
Thank
All
you
too.
so
right.
much.
Take care.